Whatever you do.
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 Rhode Island.
Rhode Island.
Rhode Island.
Rhode Island.
Rhode Island.
Rhode Island.
Whatever you do. Rhode Island.
That is not a paid commercial, but it might be someday. Good afternoon again. The Dan Yorke Show, weekdays noon to 3, our final hour here. That is the creative theme that the Adam Media Group has put together in an effort to draw attention to their application to be the custodian of the tourism effort that Governor Raimondo put in her budget. But these guys have kind of a different idea about how to go about the whatever you do at all that will be inspiring people to come to Rhode Island. So Mike and Dan are back here. I know you've had a visit here to WPRO once, I think at least, and you appeared on Dan Yorke's State of Mind a couple of weeks ago, and I welcome you back. Real close to the microphone so we don't have all that air sound in the
Thank you, Dan.
in the audio chain.
Dan, thanks for having us.
Introduce yourselves to the audience and explain who the hell you are.
So I'm Michael Mata, CEO of Adam Media Group. I'm with Dan Mercer, our Chief Operating Officer. We are a full-service advertising agency. Currently, we are in West Warwick, but we are moving to the city of Providence probably in the next week or two. And we are looking to obtain the bid for the state branding of Rhode Island. And I think we have a very interesting idea for them.
Well, your idea is seemingly is at least two-phase. One is your creative, the whatever you do, but also your approach is very different. Dan, explain the approach.
What we're really trying to do is get the campaign out to market before it's actually awarded, because what we want to do is create a groundswell of support within the public community, so individuals, all of these individual stakeholders that we have here in the state. And as we were talking about on Dan Yorke's State of Mind, there's not many business-friendly points of advertisement. As marketers, we look towards a product and we say, what are we going to market about that product, or what is the message going to be? And it's just tough from a business perspective when you look at public support. And when I say public support, obviously tax credits and business friendliness. We all know that. So what we're trying to do is show off the beauty of the state and go to all of the companies that have already made this their home, right? The CVS's, the Adam Media Groups, the Hasbros of the world, and say cooperatively, contribute some funds to this campaign so we can make this state better. Because once we drive tourism to the state, we're going to get a massive return on our investment if it's done properly. All of those corporate stakeholders should come to the table and do this cooperative marketing a little bit different. In a way, it's a public/private partnership where we're not ashamed to give credit to the people who are giving us money towards media buying or supporting us with some of their, say, additional media that they have. We'll put their logo out there. We'll put a message out there and co-brand them together, but it's kind of saying, like, we are Rhode Island. This place is beautiful. You have to come here. You have to experience it. You have to see what we have to offer. And you have to seek out, if you're looking to build a business, you have to seek those pieces out, you know?
So the governor's got a $5 million budget. And traditionally, that budget would be, or that opportunity would be bid on. And last time we chatted, you told me that rumor was that there were dozens of applicants to be the agency of record, for lack of a better term. Is that information?
We've heard around 50 to 55 different agencies. We haven't been able to get the list.
That would be a national
businesses.
response, clearly, because we don't have that many agencies here in Rhode Island.
Absolutely.
But traditionally, plus or minus a couple of percentage points, there'd be a 15% take for an agency. So at a $5 million nut, just do the math, it'd be $750,000 of money that would go toward an agency. $4.25 million would be used to invest in the creative Well, the 15% generally comes off the buys, and so how that whole thing works. Let's put it this way: there's a piece of the action for the agency. There's a bunch of production costs for whatever theme, a la what you've put together, is available. And then, of course, what's left is what is actually spent in placing the marketing plan, albeit in print, in social media, in broadcast, all those kinds of things. When I first saw it, thought to myself, well, a $5 million budget item is not a whole lot. It's a hell of a lot more than the state has been doing, but it's not a whole lot. I'd like to see a much more. I think the story of Rhode Island needs to be told in a more in a different way. But where are you going to get that consensus? So I watch this and I say, this will be interesting. You guys are actually coming to the table saying something different. You're saying you can grow that $5 million put with this corporate cooperative plan that you have, correct?
Correct.
Yes.
All right. So a couple of weeks ago, you first introduced the idea to me, and I thought, well, A, for creative, I'm still trying to figure out what the legal application is with this, and we might have to talk about that some more. But say the whole thing is perfectly, I'm not saying your ideas are nefarious, I'm just talking about the legal complications that could arise.
As are we, by the way, Dan. So we would have to understand what kind of implications there would be for public-private partnerships. So it's not to say that we would look for the state to obviously contribute whatever they would need to do to be able to make that a reality. So I just want to put that out there.
Say that again?
So if a corporation was to partner up with the state and contribute to the campaign,
right.
We're not out here saying that we understand the legal or tax implications of something like that. We're just kind of saying that
clearly
we would like
there'd be
the
a
state
pool established that would subsidize this, and it would not be the first time that corporate America has contributed to something that was publicly run. So I'm guessing there's a way to make it work. But
Sure.
but in concept, what do you think you could do? Double the budget, triple the budget? What's your realistic expectation?
So there's a few things. The first is $5 million is not enough for a national campaign. We know because we've done national campaigns in the past. We're looking around $8 to $10 million in order to have a real impact. The state has put in $5 million. What we did as an agency to be different is, we're going against 55 other agencies, so we had to be unique and different. So we donated our production. That could be upwards around $1 million worth of fees. So that means we still have $5 million to use for the actual media buying, which is the most important piece. Yes, you need to have an unbelievable creative. I believe we do have that. We've done it in the past. We're great at branding. That's our specialty. So let's have $5 million at the table so we can actually place the media in California, in Texas.
Well, where's your profit coming from?
So what we do is we typically save our clients 30% on any media buying. So there will be some fees that we'll get from media buying on the agent on the commission side. However, we will still be spending the $5 million on actual media buying. So what we've done and what we just put out a press release is we've gone out to businesses already, and this has only been a week, and I already have over $300,000 committed. It's a co-branding effort. It just makes sense. So we reached out to Giovanni Feroci, as you know, CEO of Benris, and we told him that, if you have $1 million budget and we're going to promote Rhode Island, which only helps you and showcases the business, would you put $100,000 behind a campaign with us? And he agreed that he would. We have another group, the Delpidio group out of Boston, who we're working very closely now to do a few restaurants in the Providence area, and they've also committed. And at the end, I also committed another $100,000 on our end for media buying. It just makes sense. To co-brand with the state is a really good platform for any business. If you look at Rhode Island College, if you look at Brown University, all of them have media budgets. So we're going to co-brand with the state of Rhode Island. That $5 million will become another $5 million easily if we do it smartly and we have the time to do it. So my first goal is, if we're awarded it, is to go after the businesses and explain to them that out of $1 million, $2 million budget, give us what you can. If it's $10,000, we'll place it correctly for you. If it's $50,000, and as you saw the billboards on 95, we're promoting the brand, and we're promoting the brand of the state brand, which is Rhode Island. So it's a win-win for everyone involved. And if you take like a Benris who's doing opening stores in Rochester, New York, then what we'll do is we'll take that budget and we'll take the budget that we're spending for the state of Rhode Island, and we just take that money and we duplicate it. So if they spend 10, we spend 10, there's 20,000. So it makes sense for the business and it makes sense for the state budget.
Well, we should go backward a little bit. If you just tuned in, the principals of the Adam Media Group are here, Michael Mata and Dan Mercer. You guys were Seven Swords, the ad agency for Alex Anani, correct? You guys were just in the paper. What were you in the paper for the other day? Seven Swords. Oh, some litigation against Alex Anani. Was there a financial challenge for you guys in your ad agency with Alex Anani? When Giovanni Ferrosi left, I know that there was kind of it was not a clean leave, clearly, and I don't know all the nuances, and I'm not looking to dig up some kind of something gate. But tell me, were you guys out clean with no problems, or do you have continuing issues with that former situation?
Well, I'm actually in litigation with Alex Anani on the way I departed from the company. Seven Swords was a company that did advertising for not only Alex Anani, but many other companies as well.
Okay.
And at the time that Giovanni had left, they had decided to dissolve Seven Swords. The problem there is we had many, many accounts, so you can't just dissolve the company or these people are left with nothing to work with. All of the stuff that they wanted to get done, obviously.
Did you take your client base into Adam Media Group?
I did.
Okay.
So that's how Adam Media was formed. It was formed by the fact that the company was dissolved. All of these employees were no longer had jobs, and we still had all of these clients.
How many
to service.
employees were with Seven Swords at the time it was dissolved?
We had about 30 employees at Seven Swords.
Wow, that's a lot.
We grew very rapidly. We went from $500,000 in sales to $22 million in sales, and we were Inc. 500's fastest growing company.
Seven Swords or Alex Anani?
Both. We were actually both. So Alex Anani started around $1 million. We brought them to around $240 million. They had about 20 employees, and they left. When I left, they had about 1,000. Media PO/Seven Swords was the company formerly known as Seven Swords. We had about 7 employees. Then we had about 30 employees. And we were about $500,000 in sales to about $22 million in sales. And both Alex Anani and Seven Swords were Inc. 500 status. One, I believe, was 86, and we were number 342. So here we have a very fast-growing company. We're doing great things with our clients, and then all of a sudden, there's, they decide to dissolve the company. That left a lot of companies with work that needed to be accomplished. That left me at that time with no job. And then obviously there's some legal things that we're working in court right now. But Adam Media was born, and when Adam Media was born, I hired a lot of the employees that were terminated.
All right. It was Dan, were you with Mike during this whole Seven Swords escapade?
Yeah, I was at Seven Swords, and I actually left the company after Michael, and kind of a chapter in my life that's closed at this point, and it's the
all right. So, but people need to know the background. So, but
Absolutely.
you're still clearly an ally with Giovanni Ferrosi.
Yes.
Who's one of the ultimate movers and shakers here in Rhode Island, no doubt, with Benris and which is almost off the same different product, same kind of model as Alex Anani. I haven't checked in with Gio in a while to see how business is going, but I'm guessing he's doing pretty well with
And
that.
he gets it. This co-branding thing is something that we started at Alex Anani. We had a budget, and at that budget, we had a lot of retailers all across the country. I worked with about 25 of them. And what we did was, rather than just spend Alex Anani's money at the time, we utilized their budgets, and we worked together. And it's the same plan. We started it, and now I know it like the back of my hand. So I'm very, very familiar with it and can do it for the state.
All right, so I'm going to pause here, and when we come back, we'll talk to these guys about the unorthodox approach, because generally you apply to get a contract from the state, you're awarded it or you're not. They've literally made their application public, brought ideas to the table to advance the actual ask public. I'm wondering how the Raimondo administration is dealing with this. We'll find out if they know when we come back. Stay with us. 2:25 here on the Dan Yorke Show. In studio, the Adam Media Group principals, Michael Mata and Dan Mercer. They have responded to the $5 million ask by the state for what is traditionally known as request for proposals to be the media agency for the tourism campaign in Rhode Island. The creative is yet to be determined. Clearly, the creative will be determined by whoever gets the contract in traditional fashion. But the Whatever You Do Rhode Island campaign has been forwarded as part of the application by Adam Media Group, which may be more aggressive than many of the agencies who are applying have thought about doing. They may have done so just on a systems basis, meaning, well, let me ask you this. Was the request for proposal also, was it required that the creative be included in the application?
Yes.
It was.
It was.
Or at least some sort of conceptual plan.
Not as full developed as ours with the commercial website and all of that, but certainly you had to put the legwork in to have an idea. That's why it made sense to, if we had to do the work anyway, why let it sit on a shelf?
All right, now, you introduced the billboards and the video online and all that kind of stuff on what date? Recently, within the last month or so?
It was on the day of the RFP, we launched the website, which was about 3 weeks ago now, and then the billboard came soon after that, and then the video continued to develop.
Have you heard back from anybody in official capacity at the state about what you've done here in terms of making your application so fluid publicly?
We've actually reached out to the governor's office, the speaker's office, all of the stakeholders in this, and they have not yet responded. They will not meet with us, obviously. Their reasoning is because it's in an RFP and they have to wait until all bids are in. Clearly, they're seeing it and hearing it. Everyone is. We've got letters of endorsement from Councilman Hassett in Providence, Mayor Charles Lombardi in North Providence. We have about 4 meetings set up this week. We spoke to the mayor of Pawtucket. So everybody's getting behind it. So we have businesses that are getting behind it financially, which is really what makes what we really need. Again, to get $5 million.
Well, you've got 2 outside firms that have said yes, one who's closely allied with you, and I don't poo-poo that. You know, a 6-figure commitment is a 6-figure commitment. So you've got 2 businesses, plus you have your own contribution that you want to make to this. I'm sure that corporate Rhode Island is sitting tight to see what develops here.
Right.
But you're confident that green-lighted by the state, that you can blow this budget by double or triple.
Well, the question, Dan, is yes, but do we even have to wait for the green light from the state in the first place?
Well,
right?
that's the question I asked you on television a couple of weeks ago. You guys, as creative as you are, I'm sure, have thought, well, you know what? There's no law against us doing a Whatever You Do Rhode Island campaign. So either the state of Rhode Island accepts your application as the winner, or it doesn't. You could self-fund and/or cooperatively fund this campaign and run it anyway. The First Amendment's the First Amendment. You can do anything you want. Right?
There's 2 problems with that. One, I mean, we certainly can, and we're certainly looking at all avenues. The problem with that is we're saying that the state doesn't have enough money at $5 million. So even if we were to raise $5 million, we're kind of in the same spot as the state is. We need $10 million. Of course, if everyone starts to rally behind Whatever You Do right now, certainly we could do it. Second is we have an obligation to these businesses that are putting up this kind of money. If we had a $5 million base with the creative that we're going to give away, as well as the strategic plan that we have to place the media, then yes, we believe wholeheartedly that they're going to get their return on investment. However, if we start to play with those things and not use the $5 million and we only have $2 million, then we're kind of stuck in the same standpoint. So I think it really has to come together as a plan for it to work. Again, I'm not going to take Giovanni's money of $100,000 and not have enough to back the campaign. It's clearly a co-branding campaign. Any business that spends money, if I said to you, you have a $100,000 budget, if I use my $100,000 budget, we now have $200,000 to utilize, it only makes sense. You're doubling the effort. If a company gives $10,000, we double it, it's another $10,000, because remember, it's co-branded. So I'm using my budget, you're using your budget, it's brilliant. We can raise $10 million.
Do you guys all get that? I'd love to get some feedback. Generally, when we have bright minds like this in studio, you're just trying to figure it out, and you don't generally get involved in the conversation. But when we come back from the Seascape News Center and headlines, I'd like to get your feedback on a couple of things. A, the Whatever You Do Rhode Island campaign itself, and then the business approach by these gentlemen from the Adam Media Group. 438 WPRO is the number. We can hear from you on the other side of the news update that Kim is providing us. Can you just give everybody a little flavor of the Whatever You Do Rhode Island campaign, please?
Whatever you do.
Whatever you do,
Whatever you do,
Whatever you do,
Whatever you do.
Whatever you do.
Rhode Island.
Rhode Island.
Rhode Island.
Rhode Island.
Rhode Island.
Rhode
Now-
Island.
Now listen,
Whatever you do.
that
Rhode
is
Island.
that is the audio from a TV or a video presentation. Mike Mata and Dan Mercer are here from the Adam Media Group, and they are competitors for the award of a tourism budget line item from the Raimondo budget. $5 million is the put right now. And reportedly, according to Mike, dozens and dozens of potential competitors have tried to grab that advertising contract with the state. These guys have made their bid public, have made their creative public. The only organization, unless I missed something, to do so. Have you heard anybody else do
Nope.
this?
We have not, no.
So it's very, very ballsy, I think, to do what you're doing. But if I were the governor, I wouldn't be offended. I actually would be in a position where I say, you know what, you got a group thinking out of the box, and they're trying to bring some public and corporate consensus to bring energy to their application. I kind of like that. I would. I don't know whether she's thinking it's a great thing. I don't know whether Stephen Pryor, the new Commerce Secretary, thinks it's a good thing or not. You haven't had any formal feedback from these
Correct.
guys.
Now, just a response saying that they can't talk with us
Yeah.
during the RFP period.
But it's interesting. So on the creative side, the whatever you do, Rhode Island, explain what the visual is there. There are people, you're actually in your own spot, doing recreational types of things, correct?
Right. This is phase one. I mean, this is the first ad that we put together. Obviously, it's a visual creative, so it's catchy. It's still catchy. I mean, listening to it, you start to really say that over and over in your head. But the visuals are the beautiful parts of the state. You know, we have shots of boating. Obviously, that's a big thing in the state. Downtown Providence, all of the beautiful scenery in Providence. You know, that's one catch. If you look at the billboards, it's saying we're doing it in Rhode Island. We're doing that, obviously, to gain support in the state. So I want to see other businesses driving by the billboards, see the whatever you do Rhode Island, but then see Benris on there, see Rhode Island College on there, see, all of the different CVS, IGT, formerly GTech. All of those companies are doing it in Rhode Island. So if we band together and put all of that money together, it won't be all for nothing. $5 million bid going to another agency. And one of my biggest fears, Dan, we didn't talk about it, is, I've been, it's Rhode Island, it's a small state, so you start to hear, companies that possibly would get it. Out-of-state companies. How could you possibly give a state bid about branding your own state to someone outside of the state? It just doesn't make sense to me.
Oh, I don't know. I could do that. I mean, if I look,
You have to spend the money.
you guys. And by the way, I have no relationship with these guys, but I kind of like their approach. So understand that I'm somewhat empathetic to their approach. But let me just say this: you guys are a new version of the Rhode Island brainstorm here. All due respect to the major agencies in this state, if I were the governor, it might be time for me to shake it up, because we've had some very professional, but listen, there are relationships in this state right now that need someone to just kind of throw a bomb in the middle of it. Doesn't mean everyone's got to be killed.
No,
it just means, so if I were the governor, I might say, you know what, an outside perspective, an outside agency thing, maybe. I wouldn't suggest that it's bad business innately. However, what you guys are doing is putting some really interesting diplomatic pressure on the administration, because you are local. You do have a feel for the place. Clearly have a love for the place, right? And you've got an innovative approach that could actually maximize or actually hyperbolize what she's willing to spend, and that's interesting. So
We want to add some transparency to.
But I don't want to hear.
process.
But I don't. I mean, this don't go outside the Rhode Island thing. I think it's. I wouldn't take that tact.
Right.
I'd be arguing the effectiveness of your creative
Financial.
and your model,
Sure.
rather than the provinciality aspect.
that's
I'm
what
a
I-
big believer of bringing people from outside the state to do things. Obviously, you can see I like to shake things up. So if it's for education, you want to have another perspective, sure. But what does it say to companies outside of Rhode Island that we're hiring an outside firm to come to Rhode Island, that we don't have the resources here? We do have the resources. Here we are. We're a firm that's doing it different. Yes, there are agencies that have been here 30, 35 years. Maybe they would do a cookie cutter kind of creative. However, we have RISD. We have all of these schools. We have it locally. People outside the state, some of them don't even know that we have a water fire downtown. How could they possibly talk about it? Yes, on 100 other things, I totally agree. I think we should bring people from outside of the state to do things in government to shake it up. Education, I was in education, absolutely. But to sell your state from an outsider selling the state, I think it would be difficult. I really think we have the creative power here.
Why can't we? The state is beautiful. Nobody will argue against the beauty of this state during every season. And I could run through a bunch of different facts that would tell you that.
We talked about this before. Now, I'm not trying to take a dump on the state of Rhode Island, but wait a second.
Yep.
There's a problem here.
Right.
We have some natural resources that are phenomenal. The beaches, which are very well kept these days. We've got all sorts of pockets of phenomenal tourist attraction. But the place is a garbage pit right now. And that's got nothing to do with you guys. I'm just saying the place is a garbage pit. The weeds are growing. The garbage is all over the place. We have Discover Beautiful Rhode Island signs that have garbage underneath them. In fact, I did see a potted plant underneath the Discover Rhode Island sign the other day, and I almost drove off the road. It was on 95, I believe. We've got a problem right now in the state. And in some ways, I think the governor is missing something. She needs to talk about a tourism campaign to bring business into this state on a tourism level. Sure, consolidate all the agencies and get everybody on the same page, I guess. But she needs an internal marketing program as well to pick up our attitudes, to change the way we're seeing things. We have a 38 studios cloud and this is why I've told her this, and she's tone deaf to it so far. The Speaker of the House is absolutely ignorant of it so far, and that is we have a psychological problem in the state I've never seen in the 16 years that I've been here that has manifested itself deeply over the last 2 or 3. Litter, lack of budgets for public stuff. So this notion that we're so damn beautiful, Danny, I got to tell you, cool your jets on that.
I know.
Until it gets that way, because false advertising ain't going to help anybody.
Well, the problem there is if we don't advertise the tourism aspect and then take the funds generated from the additional tourism to actually do those things, to clean up the beaches, to clean up the public parks.
The beaches are pretty good right now.
To add all of those sort of attractions for people to come, I guess it's what comes first, the chicken or the egg?
Well, your reaction is predictable. I don't expect anything different from you. But this is a conversation that really isn't your project, and I want to take some calls on it because it demands that. This is not a you guys issue,
right?
It's a you guys as citizens issue, but not you guys as Adam Media Group issue.
Sure.
She's got an internal problem. Most organizations that are people-based need to market outside and inside. If you've got a membership to a club and you're trying to increase it, you also have to make sure that you're marketing to your current membership and making them feel good about what's going on. Right now, the marketing to the current citizenry is not existent. The attitude problem needs to be fixed, and the place needs to get cleaned up.
Absolutely.
And so
The Rhode Island Foundation tried. So they had its Right in Our Backyard campaign, and their attempt was to improve that attitude of everybody here in the state. I think that it had a good core message, but the execution, unfortunately, did not work. But they wanted to.
I don't think it falls to a private organization.
No, I agree.
Or a private foundation. This is we elect leadership, and leadership needs to step up and recognize this thing. It's a whole different conversation. Let me take some calls on your plan. Bob and Warwick, you're on WPRO. The guys from Adam Media Group, Mike Mata and Dan Mercer. Hello.
Hi, Dan. Thanks for taking my call. I agree with you 100% for the state of mind of how people feel about the state and the condition of the state. My question to these gentlemen, if the governor gets their way and puts up gantries, some 17 plus, that eventually falls down on the general public, as you very well know, the state never managed the budget properly, so it may not happen with this budget, but it'll happen to the next government that comes in. How do you promote the state with all these gantries, and people would have to pay to come here on top of paying just driving on the roads?
Well, that's a truck toll project at this point, but Bob, I get the question. You can react or not.
I mean, there's plenty
You
of
still
states
got to
that
go to
have toll
Newport,
roads.
even if we have toll roads, right?
Yeah, I think the campaign has to be an external, like we talk about other people in the state. But let's think about this, right? It's the people that are really going to make the difference, right? Not politicians. If they can say, "Hey, let's clean up the weeds, let's do this," it's going to be everybody banding together. You know, people are down in the state. They don't realize the different businesses. I'm fortunate because I'm in the marketing industry. I can go and visit a lot of these companies. Right in Lincoln, we have companies that are really large, 22, 25, $100 million companies. I don't think the average person in Rhode Island knows. And I think if we start seeing billboards popping up like we see now, and I have another 10 billboards next month that, you know, CVS is doing it, or a company like Tannery is doing it in Lincoln, or Imperial Pearl's doing it in East Providence, I think people are going to start to get it. Like, we're doing a lot of good things. Maybe we don't talk about it enough.
Marilyn Pawtucket, you're on WPRO, guys from the Adam Media Group. Hi.
Hi, I agree with the gentleman from the media company that we don't have to go out of state. We have plenty of talented people in Rhode Island, and we need to utilize them instead of going somewhere else. It's about time we stop going out of state and stayed in state.
Well, what examples of out-of-state are you down on? What's happening?
Well, I can give an example like the trash pickup in Pawtucket. They're from Massachusetts. Why don't we have somebody from Rhode Island? I mean, it's
I think,
oh, sorry.
That's okay. So what I would say to that maybe is find somebody in state to facilitate the out-of-state players. So we look for subject matter experts in everything that we do. And if we don't happen to be the subject matter experts, then we bring in a partner to do so.
Right.
So we're going nationally for this campaign rather than giving the award to a company that's out of state that will have to spend a lot of money to research what the points are here. Award it to somebody in state who can bring those expertise,
I agree with you.
those pieces
And
of
keep
expertise.
the jobs in Rhode Island. I mean, we're guaranteeing on Adam Media's side 5 jobs that we'll create in the next year.
Agree.
Marilyn, I got to ask you this: what bothers you about the out-of-state garbage truck?
Well, that's just an example, but I think we have plenty of talented people in Rhode Island, and I don't think we have to go to another state.
All right,
I think we should stay with the people that we have in Rhode Island.
Gotcha. Thank you.
And that way we'll build up Rhode Island.
All right, appreciate the call. 438 WPRO, toll free 1-800-321 WPRO. Didn't realize that we had a competition between garbage companies. I'll have to check the Pawtucket contract. Bob in Situate, you're on WPRO with the fellows from the Adam Media Group. Hi.
Hi, Dan.
Hi there.
I think your guests have great ideas, and I applaud them on what they want to do, but I think that the timing is totally off if there ever will be good timing, and a lot of it is, like you were saying before, a lot of the comments you were making about clouds over our state, and basically I think what they want to do is put a beautiful paint job on a car that has a bad drivetrain.
Well, they are responding to the governor's request, so you can't blame any marketing types from saying, oh, there's a marketing need, it's been described by a potential client, let's go pursue it. I mean,
and I don't blame them. I don't blame them for trying to pursue it, and that's what they do for a living. That's fine, and I'm sure they're brilliant at what they do. But really, we don't even have a broken drivetrain. We have a non-existent drivetrain.
All right. So what do you think? What do you think needs to be done before we do any quote marketing of the state?
Well, certainly, 38 Studios has to be addressed because that will always be a black cloud. I mean, how do you market a state that has roads that look like a bomb? The bombs fell on them. They're putting paint on a broken car.
Well, we do need to. I mean, listen. Aesthetically, we've got a big problem. Bob, thank you. You guys have done focus groups for all sorts of things in the past. For all sorts of interesting side project would be Rhode Island focus groups right now. I mean, Bob, respectfully, Bob, nothing you made sense. Nothing he just said made sense directly to the conversation we're having here. But there's a feeling of brokenness and despair amongst Rhode Islanders about trust in government right now that is radiating, and it's a big problem.
And the biggest problem is we need people to come to the state. Regardless if there's things that are a little broken right now, we can fix them. if we don't bring people to this
You need to bring
state,
tourism
it's not
registers.
exactly.
Right.
People are going to pay more in taxes. This is a way to get pay less taxes, but we need people to come and start businesses here. And at the end of the day, we really just have to band together and get it done. I mean, we could complain about it.
See, there's a big difference between tourism activity that your campaign will generate and business growth.
Mm-hmm. You're absolutely right, Dan. So here's the translation, is that there has to be an open lobbying campaign to say that if we are successful in bringing these tourists into the state of Rhode Island, we're going to take the proceeds from these funds to make we're going to take the proceeds to make our state more business friendly.
Yeah, I think, respectfully, you're all wet because we have a general fund that every tourism dollar will go into. Let me. You're not all wet, but you're all wet.
Listen, we can lead a horse to water. We can't make
it.
them drink. Our job is one thing. That is to
Leading the
get them
horse to
here.
the
Right.
water.
So $5 million is one thing, but they have to do more to that.
There's nothing that you've brought me that I didn't think was sophisticated in terms of your approach on this application. But your suggestion that revenues generated by successful tourism would be turned around to the expressed expenses that we're talking about here is a novice discussion of government operations.
No, totally, and especially in Rhode Island. I mean, don't forget, Dan. I mean, I was in the belly of the beast, so I know exactly what you're talking about. Running a campaign, I know what you're saying. But if we don't talk about it, if we don't push to effectuate the change, then it's never going to happen. We're going to be stuck in this vicious circle. So I agree with you. It's not a comment from me being naive. It's from a conscious state of mind to say, hey, if we generate more money with this campaign, what are we going to do with it?
Michael and Exeter, quickly, you're on WPRO. Go.
Hey, good afternoon, folks. I don't know if Mike can address this question for me or not. I don't know if it's the proper time or place, but regarding the Giovanni, the former CEO of Alexanani, with the Benris Company and the magazine that he promotes, it's
Michael, you know what? I can feel this going in a direction. You have an email, don't you?
I do. Michael at AdamMediaGroup.com. Send any emails.
I can see this is not being constructive, and I'm limited on time. Karen in Providence, you're on WPRO. Go. Karen?
Taking my call. I found the idea is really intelligent and it's extremely creative, but the concern I have is that once you display all these various terrific companies we have in this state, it would be almost, in a sense, false advertising to lure other companies here, and then they have these horrific problems with the way the business section of the state and permits and so forth is set up.
So my only comment to that would be, there are businesses doing it here, so there's a reason why they stay here. I could go somewhere else. I'm here.
Yeah, let's not, Karen, thank you. Let's not kid ourselves. Listen, there are businesses that are thriving in the state
Absolutely.
of Rhode Island. The place is not falling down. It's in a bad way right now. It has a lack of trust in government. Leadership problems over the last couple of decades have brought us to this place. This 38 Studios thing hangs over everybody's head, properly applicable or not. But getting back to where you guys are with the Adam Media Group's application for handling this tourism budget, I will tell you that I'm impressed with your creative, have been. I look forward to seeing where the state comes out on this, and when they make a decision, bring you back and either congratulate you or say, okay, now what, since you've already started an interesting conversation. When's the deadline for the decision by the state?
They haven't said. I thought I had heard that it was the beginning of September, but, this may delay it a little bit.
The 7th or the 17th. And Dan, what you were saying about the state, I would say that the only thing the state has right now is a bad attitude, right? We got to change the way we present ourselves.
Well, it's a long conversation.
We'll come back.
It's good to have you guys.
And we'll pick the weeds, too, Dan, if we need to. That's part of my 100,000. I'm going to pick the weeds.
We're Rhode Islanders. Our families are here.
Remind everybody
we love
where
the
they can see the campaign.
So you can go to whateveryoudori.com. Again, whateveryoudori.com on the Facebook and AdamMediaGroup.com.
Right,
and we
Mike,
welcome feedback. Thank you.
All right, we'll be right back. Final words. Stay
Thank
with
you,
us.
Dan.
The Dan Yorke Show. From Foster to Fall River and Franklin to Freetown, you're listening to Southern New England's most informative talk lineup. Plus, news, traffic, and